Hey guys, Kevin Shaw here, Editor-in-Chief of Mopar Connection Magazine. We are continuing on our short block build of Marsha's 440 motor. And you might have already seen the first half where we got the engine block prepped, we got the Gliptol coating in, we got the Por 15 engine enamel all hardened and on. It came out pretty good. We have a couple little globs. Right now my take is that because it's still so soft, it might not be as durable as some other paints. But again, this is all on the same day of me filming, getting the crank in, so we still have some time here. But what we're doing today, or what we're doing in this video, is that we are setting our ring gap. And I'm filming it all in one day, so I apologize if I'm a little scattered. But we are getting our ring gap all set. I've already gone ahead and set our top rings in, and we've taken our initial measurements. And we're going to go over what the math comes out to as to the recommended ring gap for our cylinder bore. And then we're going to use our Proform ring gap tool, and we're going to bring that out and we're going to start grinding a little bit off. But all in all, when it's all said and done, we're going to have perfect ring gap, make sure that our cylinder compression is great, and that it will certainly pass a leak down test once the engine is fully assembled. Hey guys, real quick, we got a whole mess of new Mopar Connection Magazine T-shirts for sale. They're up here at the Mopar Connection store. We're going to put the link up in the corner, and we have some really cool designs. The first one is my favorite, and this is called the Order of the Big Block. And as you can see, you're getting the full rotation of the big block firing order right here on your back. And in case you forget, you can have your buddy turn around and you can set your firing order the right way and not mess up. Second, we've got the What Does Mopar Mean to You? And it's a whole script of different definitions that have been some of the most popular ones that we've seen over the years. It's not all of them, but it's a snapshot of some of the best ones. So show your loyalty to Mopar by wearing it loud and proud. Grab yours at the store today. We'll put the link up in the corner. Hey guys, before we get started on the rest of the video, the first part one of this engine build, we got a lot of questions asking about whether we had put the bearings in correctly, and some eagle-eyed guys noticed that I had swapped out 2 of the bearings prior to putting the crank in. I did catch that, and I'm going to put that clip in right now. And right after that, I'm also going to put in a clip where we check the crank thrust. And some guys were asking about our crank thrust and the proper way to check it. So I'm putting that clip in right now as well. So once those 2 clips are done, then we'll get into ring gap and the rest of the engine build. I know I just said that there isn't any sort of direction for your bearings, besides obviously the chips that you're going to see here. But we just caught that we had our number 2 bearing wrong. And here, I'll pull this out just to show you. Before we put the crank in, I realized, oh dang, I don't have oil holes, and I had our number 5 and our number 2. We had the wrong bearings. We actually put the main cap bearing, let me grab that and I'll show you guys the difference. This is your main cap bearing. You see there's no oil hole, and that is a bad thing to put right there when it definitely has an oil hole and it wants to feed the crank. So this goes on your main cap. This hole lines up obviously with the chip here. Push down, make sure that all your holes are nice and lined up, because if you're not oiling your crankshaft, you are going to have a very short-lived engine. So definitely don't screw that up. So we're going to put this on the main cap, we're going to drop the crank on, and then we are going to button everything up, tighten down the main caps, and we'll get a rear main seal on it. Before I go and torque everything down, we're going to do one last check, and that is for our crankshaft thrust, or what they call end play. And although this engine really isn't a high performance engine and we're not making gobs of power, it still is important to check out your thrust just in case some of the tolerances have worn out over the years. And what exactly is the importance of it is primarily because your transmission is going to make a lot of power and resistance that can push quite literally on the flange of the crankshaft and push that forward, push that crankshaft forward, and cause premature wear, premature damage on our bearings. So we want to check our end play and see how much movement there is. For the typical 440 big block Chrysler, the threshold is anywhere from 2 thousandths to up to 6 thousandths. And we double checked with a couple other companies, with K1 Technologies and with Eagle Crank, and both Eagle and K1's website said the same thing. So we have just set up our dial indicator. We've zeroed it out. As you'll see, we actually put the nut on the end just so that we had a nice flat surface. I didn't have to worry about the radius, didn't have to worry about anything that was really unpredictable. And we just got a nice pre-bent screwdriver kind of act as a lever. We've already zeroed out our dial indicator, and we're just going to go off of the number 3 here. We're going to bring it, make sure it's at 0. We're going to come in. Yeah, we are zeroed out. Actually, we're -1, but that's okay. We'll do the math. We put a little bit of pressure on, and you see that brought us to 5 thousandths. And if we add that extra 1, that brings us to 6 thousandths, and that's right at the tolerable level. And oh, we zero out again, and oh, no, we're less than a negative, so we're about 5 thousandths of play, maybe a little bit more than 5 thousandths. But again, we've got some new bearings on an old crankshaft, and we didn't go through and do the big high-end machine job that we've done with previous engine builds, with our 535 here on the Charger, with the 505 big block that we've got. We already took to the dyno. You guys probably saw that video already. This one's going to be a little bit looser. I just knew it would be, but that isn't a deal breaker. We are within the maximum of 6 thousandths, and 5 thousandths is okay. Okay, like I said, we've already put in the top ring. This is the one that is the most important when it comes to our compression and making sure that we maintain our cylinder compression. Went ahead, placed them all in. These are our sealed power rings that we picked up from Summit. And we took our feeler gauge and found that, here we go, here we go. All right, so we brought out the 15, and we can see that 15 was really tight on our number 1, but on our number 3, 15 slid in very nice. 16 was tight. We found that 15 was way too tight for our number 5, and then same for number 7. When we go to the other side, it was kind of the opposite. Everyone was 15, but our number 8. So what that means to us is that we need to take a little bit of material off of each one of these rings. Sealed power cuts them kind of thick, so we have to trim a little bit off. The question is, how much do we take off? So we took KB Pistons instructions. They have their application guide, and they even give you the formula to factor how much material you need, or how much total top ring end gap you need. So they calculate at 4-inch bore. You multiply it by 65 thousandths. Well, we're not at 4-inch bore, we're at 4350. So we multiply 4350 by 65 thousandths, and that gets us to 28 thousandths. Okay, so instead of 14 thousandths, we want this gap to be able to accept a maximum of 28. I think I'm going to go just a hair tighter. They do give us a range. Okay, the range for a 4100 bore and up, They want us between 20 thousandths and 25 thousandths. 25 really is my personal max and the suggested max right there. So let's aim for in between 20 thousandths and 25 thousandths, and we'll get our Proform tool out and get cracking on this. All right, so how do we set up the Proform electric ring filer? We've got our ring right here. We've got it all set up. We just got these clamps holding it down to the table just because it likes to vibrate. It is electric with a rechargeable battery, which is nice. I got it plugged in because I did not give it enough time to actually recharge. So let's get our ring set up. Now the nice thing is that when they close, they make a nice gap. We want to make sure that when we grind, that we're able to get a nice even gap so that we don't get a flare, because if you do, you're really going to lose a little bit of compression there. So let's get this guy on. All right, one last adjustment. Because we were not coming up flush to the grinding wheel, we took this Allen wrench and we backed this off, rotated this eccentric, and then tightened it back up. That allowed us to have a nice flat surface. That way when we cut on the ring, we're not coming in at a funny angle, and we're going to have a nice closure. So that's the whole idea with this one. We want to make sure that we're coming in very even. Okay, so we're going to zero out again. We're going to fire up. So let's see how we did. We'll get it in the cylinder. There, see, that's nice. That looks really good. They came together nice and flat. We've already put this on our grinder, and we are now exactly at 25 thousandths. Goes on really nice. So we're pretty happy with that. We just have to go and do the rest of the rings, and we'll go all the way through. As we noted earlier, our maximum threshold for ring gap was going to be 28 thousandths, and we just finished using the Proform ring grinder. We got our number one to 26 thousandths. We have a series of 25 down here, and then on the other side we repeated with a 25. We got a little aggressive and got 27, but then we had 26 on here. So again, we're still way within the 28 thousandths threshold, and these will be fine, especially because, again, we're running just a 10-to-1 compression motor, and we're looking at just really not high compression, and I think this will do us just fine. The steps are rather easy. We take our piston, just lightly put it in the vise just to keep it in place. We start with our keeper, and I like to have everything be perpendicular. All of the brakes I like to have be totally perpendicular. They do spin a little bit, but I want them to start in opposite directions. So we're going to have this one, we're going to have our bottom one facing to there, our top one facing there, and we're just going to go ping pong right back and forth. All right. Definitely do not want to stretch anything out, so I go nice and easy. Ooh. My hands are all oily, which is both good and bad. Okay. All right. There we go. I want to rotate that just a hair. Okay, here is our second ring. You see how it says top on there? We want to make sure that's facing on top. That means that there are specific coatings and cuts or angles to the cut on the ring that want it to favor this direction. So again, we're going to favor the top. There we are. Okay, now let's get our top ring. This is going to be our number 8. And keeping them specific to the cylinders that I cut them for. Okay, so there's that. Pull it out of the vise. Now I'm going to pull the bottom of our rod, take our rod cap off. There we go. And we've got our ring compressor tool from Summit. It's at 4350. Obviously our rings are going to need some motivation to compress. There we go. A little bit more. Here she is. Beautiful. We're ready to drop this in the cylinder. Give it a few taps, slide it through, and then I'll put the bearing in once this is slid through. I'll index the crank around. It's just a little bit easier because I don't like the idea of dropping, putting the bearing on and then accidentally dropping it, having it bang all over the floor. All right, we're all lined up. We can start tapping it in. That went a lot quicker than I was expecting. That was that's what happens when everything's oiled up and ready to go. With the engine upside down, I can bring this up, make sure our tabs are lined up in there nice and firm. And then what we can do, take our mallet, whoop, and again we're going to look at that big chamfer here that goes up against the cheek of the crank. Another trick is that also your chip goes to the other side of the chip. It does not go opposite, it goes chip to chip. In case you guys are looking for a cheat. That's something that I was taught a long time ago. By hand, super easy. Everything's looking really good. Been spraying just a little bit of penetrant oil just to keep the cylinders a little lubed up. Thankfully, we have good ring seal. Just for now, I mean, obviously nothing's broken in, but you know, I can pool all of the oil in here. So we're looking real good right now. We're going to keep assembling more pistons and putting this boy together. Seeing that these are truck rods, I'm going to go ahead and go up to 55. We've already set it to 55, and we're going to go all the way through and click through these. I think we're already there because I've already gone to 45. Yeah, we're Already there. Okay, gone through. We've taken feeler gauges, make sure that our tolerances are really good. We're all within factory specs, so that's good news. We have got our All-Star ultrasonic cleaner. We are going to give the oil pump, oil pickup, timing cover a couple rounds, probably about an hour or maybe even more, just because it takes a while to heat up. It is outside. I don't want to stink up the house with the stuff. And I do have some industrial cleaner. So we're going to let this stuff do its magic for a little bit. See how good it turns out. Because we definitely need to rebuild our oil pump. I got all new gaskets and seals for that. Even some internals. Got a really nice Melling rebuild kit. And we definitely need to get the pickup on before we can go any further. We're certainly not up to temperature yet, but that's all right. We're going to do multiple runs on the ultrasonic cleaner and see how successful we are at getting these guys looking really nice and clean. We'll come back in about an hour. And ooh, I think that's it. All right, here we go. See how this fits. Oh, beautiful. Isn't that pretty? That fits great. Okay, let's check our pan. Pan's a little dirty, got to clean the pan. Oh yeah, that's trick. Okay, we're in good shape. Everything lines up nice. Everything looks happy. We just got to clean this up, give it a coat of paint. We're ready to rock. Alright, so we've got our factory oil pump here, and we went ahead and ordered the Melling rebuild kit. Found this on Summit. Very affordable, very cheap. I think we ended up spending a little over 20 bucks. But they do give you all of the internals that you're going to need, as well as your choice of spring and all your gaskets. Ooh, 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 ooh. We got more. Here we go. So we have got everything that we are going to need to put this pump back together. I've already went ahead and cleaned all of our hardware. It's got a little bit of a flash rust because I had it in a solvent. I'll scrub those up with some Scotch-Brite. Instructions do tell you that if you want a lighter pressure, you can run the pink spring. I prefer more oil pressure, so we're going to run the natural colored spring. And we do have our paper gaskets, we do have our O-rings, so we are going to start putting this together. 35, 35, 35, and 35. Okay. Oil pumps on and totally rebuilt thanks to our Melling kit. Got our oil pickup. We've got our pistons and rods in. We are waiting on a timing cover to come out of the ultrasonic cleaner, which means what we have left is a camshaft and an oil pan. So let's get cracking on that. Yep, turned out real nice. Okay, we'll put a new seal in there for our crank. We'll get the cam in. We'll get a gasket around it. We'll rock and roll. Okay, well, we've come to what I think is everyone's favorite part, and that is the camshaft. The camshaft is really what dictates the behavior of an engine, and you can have all sorts of cubic inches, you can have all sorts of stroke, you can even have all sorts of compression, but if you just don't have the camshaft, it's going to lay down, it's going to fall on its face. For me, I really wanted to go with something that was pretty stout, but not over the top, nothing too crazy. And in my research, I wanted to emulate something that I think was one of the rowdiest factory camshafts, and that was what came in the 446 pack, A12 Super B, and Roadrunner in 1969 and a half. In my research, what I found was a hydraulic flat tappet that was an intake of 531 and an exhaust of 528. I might be wrong. I'm not saying that is correct, and I'm more than happy to be corrected. If you guys want to get in the comments and let me know what it really was, that's great. But from what I understood, it was a 531 by 528. Unfortunately, Comp didn't have anything remotely close to that. And we dug around, and besides making a total crazy custom cam, I just didn't want to do that. They gave me what I thought was a really good option, and more expensive option, and a lot of you guys are going to roll your eyes at this, but considering all of the failures that are happening across the market with a lot of flat tappet cams, I decided I really would rather err on the side of caution and longevity, and we went with a hydraulic roller. A little different, I understand, hydraulic to hydraulic, but flat tappet to roller is another, that's a different creature. We went with, as you can see, a 541 by 537 hydraulic roller. Because it's a roller and it's a hydraulic lifter, it's going to have a little bit of crush, and it's going to give a little bit on that top end, and that was going to bring us as close as I thought we could get to the hydraulic flat tappet that came in the A12 cars. It's not perfect. I know it's not perfect, but it got me really in the ballpark, and I was happy with being as close as I could get. I think some of you guys are going to think I'm way too aggressive, and that it's just going to be way too rowdy for what Marsha is. I don't think so. I street drive that Charger. There's no reason I can't street drive this. Okay, so per the cam card, what Comp gave us is a gross valve lift of 541, and that's at intake, and exhaust is 537, with a duration at 50 of 230 by 236, and our lobe lift is 361 by 358 with a lobe separation of 110. This, of course, being a roller, is going to be a lot more forgiving. A hydraulic roller is very street friendly, and you might not get that real rowdy chop. You're not going to get that really choppity chop at the drag strip that you're used to, that you're kind of expecting with something like this. But I know that when I put my foot into it, Marsha's going to get up and go. Again, we're talking about a very heavy C-body convertible, so the hope was to really be able to get some good grunt out of this machine. Again, I'm not looking at making big horsepower. If we're over 400 horse, it's all gravy for me. Now, unfortunately, I can't just oil this up and stab it in. I got to clean all of the machine oil off of it. So we're going to take our cleaner, we're going to wipe this all off, get it nice and spick and span, and then we're going to oil it up and stab it in. This is doing the trick. Okay. Okay. There we go. Oh yeah. Yeah, gotta get all that machinist oil off. Okay. Alright, we've gotten all of our machinist oil, all of our protective oil off of it. So now we're going to put our assembly lube all up and down everything. Obviously we don't need to really worry about the lobes so much, but I just like a nice protective layer. This is a bit of a mess, so we are going to try to not get it all over me and all over my floor. So here we go. So I went ahead, I skipped a couple steps, I apologize. I got on a roll last night and we got the timing chain on, we got our Allen heads on, we have our Teflon button. We're all dialed in. We are 0 to 0. We're perfectly matched. Actually, I've been rotating it, but I was matched up 0 to 0, or dot to dot, I should say. This does not require any special indexing. We do not need to advance the cam at all. So this is good enough for what we are doing today. Of course, at a later time, if we so choose, we can come back in. But for right now, we're going to button this up. I already went ahead and cleaned up and painted the timing cover. This paint, for a lot of you guys who were curious, this paint, it does lay on super duper thick, and because it lays on so thick, I'm getting just a lot of modeling. I'm getting a lot of, it's not a smooth finish. It does not lay down smooth at all. And because of that, I don't know if I really am in love with the POR 15 engine enamel. I think I will stick with conventional high temperature engine paint. So anyways, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to clean our surface, actually both of our surfaces here, and then we will get I'll RTV the gasket and we'll tighten everything down. I do have the water pump being painted as well. Our oil pan will also be cleaned up, but let's take these steps and go forward and get our timing cover on the engine. Well guys, that's pretty much going to wrap up this segment on the short block for our 1970 Plymouth Fury III convertible that we named Marsha. We have a few little things that are just primarily cosmetic, besides of course putting on the water pump and then prepping the oil pan and getting that on. We might have to do that in the third segment prior to putting the cylinder heads together and getting really the top end done. And that'll be the third part. And once we have the whole motor put together, we're going to take it over to Tommy's Auto Machine and Parts and put it on the dyno, primarily for a break-in, but of course we do want to see what the horsepower is going to be. I'm not predicting much more than 400 horse, and even if it's just 400 even, I'll be pretty satisfied. But more importantly, I'm looking for that big torque number. I'm hoping to get well over 500 foot-pounds of torque, and if we do that, I know we'll be sitting pretty with that big C-body convertible. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. That really help us grow the channel. And if you want more awesome Mopar content, please visit us over at www.moparconnectionmagazine.com, where new articles are written and published every single day, Monday through Friday. We are the most popular Mopar enthusiast magazine there is today that you can find online. More importantly, we're also free. There's no downloads, there's no passwords. All you have to do is get on your phone, your laptop, or your desktop computer, as long as the boss isn't looking, and you can read all the articles and watch the videos that we produce every single day, Monday through Friday. We'll see you there.